When you balance the track in mastering, you're usually trying to achieve something. The two questions that arise when you're making these changes are, is this better or just different? And also, am I done? To evaluate this, it's important to pay attention to three things. These are, what happened to the lead instruments, what happened to the transient clarity, and what happened to the key moments. This video is for you if you are in the situation of evaluating a master and don't know what to listen for. The lead instruments. The lead instruments are things like the lead vocals or other melodic elements, but often also the kick drum, the snare, or other instruments that are very important for the arrangement. Most processing will affect the lead instruments in some way, so it's good to learn to identify and be aware of them. We take an example. Maybe you want a more bombastic or bigger sound, and you increase the side signal to achieve a wider stereo, which can help with this. Usually this will sound more big and grand and embracing, depending on what's in the side signal, of course, but what also happens is that the things in the center, like the lead vocals, kick and snare, will sink into the mix, and they will become less clear and in your face. So now you have affected the lead instruments. And after comparison to the original, you may feel like the lead instruments sank in unreasonably much. So in a situation like that, you may need to change approach. Instead of taking up the whole side signal, maybe you can increase the high end and or the low end a bit, and with that leave some extra space for the lead vocals in the middle. Always tread quite carefully when working in MS, of course. The point here is to evaluate your change or processing relative to the lead instruments to know if it got better or if it's just different. The transient clarity. The transients are the short sounds like the punch in the drums or the consonants, things like that. The transients give a lot of texture and depth to the sound and are very important for the overall rhythm. Being able to dig them out and put them out there when it comes to, for example, metal is very important for the final result. That's why we are quite detailed about attack and release times, look-aheads, artifacts, things like that. The goal is to be able to have some control over these things. If you want me to do a video on time constants, that would be possible. We take an example of transients. If you for some reason are trying to achieve more loudness in the master, you compare to the original, loudest matched, and you hear that you have less punchy drums. You then may want to adjust to a shorter look ahead in the limiter to mitigate this, or at least the look ahead is often the primary suspect. So yeah, a longer look ahead will give less snappiness, but also less distortion. And the shorter look ahead will give more distortion, but also more snappiness is retained. So some of the distortion from a short look ahead is, of course, beneficial for the transients. So that's the sweet spot we usually want to find. This is also why clipping the AD used to be popular to get loudness before you had more advanced limiters. You get more punch, and as you may have noticed, sometimes this went overboard and gave more ugly audible distortion. This is also why you may want to use more instances of limiters, one that's clipping and one more gentle instance, to get the best of both worlds. That can be useful in some cases. Anyway, so when you lose snappiness in your attempt to get loudness, you compare to the original, loudness matched. Notice this, hopefully, and you adjust stuff until you retain the level of snappiness that was before. So if it's possible, so you may have to do something else to get there, but at least you're actively aware of the situation and you are evaluating your overall changes against the transients. Let's talk about the key moments. So when I listen through a track, I am likely to go over to the original and check the master against it when I hear a key moment, just to make sure that everything sounds good. So a key moment that many people are aware of may be in the transition from the verse to the chorus. Oftentimes we want a lift there. We want the sound to expand in some way. Here is an example involving a key moment. So if you're going for a denser sound with the help of some compression, your intention is to get a bit of glue and you have a gain reduction of 0.5 to 1 dB or something tasteful like that. And maybe you miss that the compressor has a gain reduction of 3 dBs in the chorus because the chorus is much louder than the verse and you were listening to the verse while you were tweaking the threshold. So to remind you, the gain reduction is essentially how much the compressor is pushing down the material in dBs. So now you have evened out the dynamics of the verse and the chorus and made the chorus essentially 2.5 dBs quieter relative to the verse. And so in the master, you will have less of a lift in that transition. You notice this mistake if you take the time to listen to the key moment of the verse going into the chorus. So then you may have to do it another way. Maybe you will set different compressors for the verse and the chorus. If you're working digitally, this is easy. I have to add that the key moments can be more subtle than this verse-chorus example. It can be certain words or articulations in the vocals or something happening with another lead instrument. I think you recognize those details that are very satisfying to listen to, and you kind of feel them in your brain, or what we can say. So how did I learn these things? Mainly from our clients. In my experience, artists and producers are very often on point with their key moments, transient clarity, and lead instruments. I used to get longer lists of all the things that they wanted to have changed as revisions, and usually it would go like, if you listen at this exact time, this exact thing happens. So after some years, they kind of trained me to anticipate the feedback. Sometimes we have to make a compromise and then there will be a back and forth, but the feedback doesn't come as a surprise anymore. Usually the feedback from the client is something me and Thomas have already discussed and made a decision about in the mastering. And then when we get feedback, we know that, oh, they would like to hear a version going in the other direction. Being aware of these things shortens the list of revisions, I would say, but of course, it doesn't eliminate revisions completely, since it's also a matter of taste, what you want it to sound like. That's all I have to say about this. I think it can help you with that question of, is this better or just different? And also the question, am I done? Hope it helps. Good luck with your projects. Keep 2 ears on your lead instruments, key moments, and transient clarity, and have a nice day. Thank you for watching.